And welcome back, and this time I actually mean that, to another episode of Great Scott Marcus. I'm Scott, and that one's Mark. And today, here on episode 14 of GSM on Ramble Entertainment, we are basically coming off of like a 3 or 4 week hiatus where basically I wanted to take some time to get caught up on episodes, and I didn't. So...
today when I was thinking, I was like, I'm going to do productive things. It was like I started doing productive things that were not of the production I wanted. For example, like I vacuumed and I made my bed and I dusted. Like, that's productive, but is it really procrastination? Because I was still productive a little bit, right?
I would agree with that sentiment. Like, minor tasks are basically procrastination towards larger tasks, and
yeah,
I mean, I was discussing this before the episode. We'll discuss this in detail in the topic, but I wasn't procrastinating. I did do a lot of productive things. In fact,
sure.
A great amount of productivity, and again, another thing I'll get to in the topic during our time off. And at first, as I was saying, I pretty much banged out 2 of the episodes, but then came upon the typical problem with
difficulties
with 0 frames per second, where the audio desynchronizes from the video, and it just looks like my words aren't aligned with my mouth. And
it's gotta be real annoying. And I'm sure you probably go through a certain part of it and it works, and then 20 to 30 seconds later it starts stretching open. Yeah, you can't really do that constantly.
It's basically after about 10 minutes. It seemed like it used to be after about 20 minutes before we started this new show formatting.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just it just does it. And we'll get to that more in the topic, but it's there's so many conversions. Like, I'll convert the video 3 times. Sometimes the one conversion will work better than another, and it's just and some of this is the price with working with free software. You know, like that's gonna happen, but unfortunately, you know, I like what we do here. I'm really happy to be back. I'm happy to see your beautiful yet somehow ugly mug at the same time.
Thank you. Yeah, my hair is a muck today.
I didn't shave. I'm in some serious pain today, but I
put pants on, so that's at least good for us.
I'm really happy to be back. In fact, we kind of talked about this in some of our gaming, that this is a therapeutic thing that we really like to do, and so yeah, it's nice to be back, and we'll kind of get more to talking about us and our time off in the topic, as I mentioned. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. The DNC and the RNC. All right, that's been the episode. Have a good one, guys.
They were both dumpster fires in their own respective manner, which was kind of nice. RNC had Trump, and he is a
dumpster fire in
of a dumpster fire, and then the DNC with their chairman stepping down the same day of the DNC,
the first day
of DNC. Yeah, it was entertaining and fun.
I cannot believe how bad both of those were on the same level. Like,
did you watch most of any of them at all?
Most of what I caught was either 20 minutes of either. I caught a couple speeches from the DNC because, a lot of what I sent you from John Oliver's show on HBO or Stephen Colbert's Late Show. Most of what they highlighted from the RNC is exactly why it's so hard to side with that party, because feelings are facts. And you can make something up and it's just believed to be a fact. And
the party can't get it together in general.
Yeah, senators or governors, or I forget who it was that came out and said that most of the best things that have been done by white people. It's just like, this party is falling apart. And it's just, and I mean, the Democrats aren't doing much better, but all of this is going to lead to something very interesting, whether it is a divide in parties, and hopefully a divide that leads us to an odd party system.
Hopefully.
There's a lot more people talking about that now that, like, I've had that opinion for years since I met you. And there's a lot more people talking about that concept as of late, and I'm happy to see that, because it's vindicating in a way. I'm not a big political person, but to be able to take a look at what goes on within this system and to have this opinion for almost 6 years now is vindicating. So, go ahead.
I'll say, I mean, just bipartisanship pretty much forces you to just be one or the other, hot or cold, black or white, and that's just not the way the world works anymore. And the problem is they're both almost polar extreme opposites, at least this time around. I feel like, 4 years ago when it was Obama versus Mitt Romney, at the time you're like, oh my God, these guys are so different. But then you see Trump and Clinton, you're like, holy fuck, like, can we go back 4 years to that election where it was like tolerable candidates?
I think there is, so I don't want to be one of the people who, hoists Mitt Romney up on a pedestal, or John McCain. Both of them had major faults. Some were choices in running mate. Some were choices in the things they said.
Yeah, for sure.
But there was something within the media that did want to hold up Obama a lot more.
It's the media.
And there is something about the media that is really wanting to highlight, Trump as being an idiot. But also he is. It's just like, it's not. There is bias within the media, of course. They're owned by corporations, and there's always going to be
word vomit.
We've always okay, so yes. We've talked about this a few times on the show about objectivity and subjectivity, and there is almost never objectivity within nature. There's always an opinion. There's always a way in which things lean. Anything that is living that basically has an opinion. And so, yeah, like, these things are going to happen, but I don't know where that point was supposed to go, because I just got lost in all my word vomit.
Basically.
So, it's just incredibly interesting to watch a candidate self-destruct and a party self-destruct, and yet neither of them can come out on top. Clinton is winning because she's actually turning opinions around. Trump is actually losing and helping Clinton to win, because it's almost like a switch has flipped where real people are just like, no, we're not going to allow this racist, bigoted businessman to have what is basically still the most powerful political office in the nation. And hopefully, and I want to say hopefully that is the case, but, like, as soon as, like, Trump is, like, really on the decline like he is now, I'm just like, okay, now how do we prevent Clinton from getting in office too?
Yeah, it's unfortunately got to be one or the other at this point. I think it's too late for the parties to say, no, we rebuke this and have somebody else.
I actually said to my dad the other day, I was like, what if they walked into the office together, hand in hand? And I think he almost threw up.
They'd have the world's best and or worst sitcom known to man.
Yeah, that's basically a sitcom. It's just... Clinton did a good job distancing herself, or keeping distance from the whole, like, it looks like they really tried to flounder Sanders. Sanders, unfortunately, if he actually did stand a chance to win, would have had better numbers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I like what Sanders stood for, but more people would have voted for him.
Yeah, I feel like whatever the party did, at least this is my belief, is that it was not a part of Clinton's, not part of her campaign. You know, I don't think she went to the Democratic Party and was just like, hey, do shady shit to prevent Bernie Sanders from being enough. I don't think that would happen. But just because, you know, I think the DNC just wants what's best for the party, unlike what the RNC knows anything right now. Yeah. And they're like, okay, well, we need to get more, like, because Bernie was very left, you know, and I think the Democrats knew they needed someone that's not as far left to kind of get more of the, you know, moderates to go on her side as opposed to Trump, who's very right on the spectrum.
I would say Trump actually leans more moderate because he was never really Republican to begin with.
That's true, yeah.
And sure, he'll talk about Republican policies.
He doesn't really.
But is that
shit.
really what we would get? I mean, I don't know what we would get if he's actually in office.
That's a legit question. Like,
nothing would happen. Nothing. Like he reached out to Kasich to tell him he would basically
be the president.
Yeah, he'd basically be president. Like, man, there's so much to unpack in there. So I think some really left ideals and execution could really benefit the nation using some really left ideas for Medicare and education. Man, my eye is twitching. For medical and education could really benefit the nation.
Sure.
Some good tax reform. These aren't things you find within the Republican Party. Unfortunately, that's not what we need right now. We need something kind of center, kind of just right of center, or maybe comfortably left of center. Extremes really don't fit anymore. That's why Cruz just couldn't make it. He just was too almost evangelical.
He was definitely the poster boy of the Republican Party for a while. You know, just being that. You know.
But man, do I admire his balls.
Yeah.
Like
not endorsing Trump at the Trump convention was classic.
Good
Cruz.
for him. I mean, I don't. You know, in politics, you kind of like play the field. You know, you do what you have to make your way up, and instead he was just like, no.
Well, I mean,
no.
I think you know, that's why other big Republicans didn't go to the RNC. Your McCain and Kasich and Mitt Romney, because they openly would not support Trump, and so they didn't want to like make any kind of big spectacle of going there and then either lying about it or going back on their own beliefs, what have you. But then you have Ted Cruz, who, you know, as it kind of shows that he is kind of a big shrew and you know, not to really be trusted.
Well, Trump said he knew exactly what Cruz had intended to say before he let him speak, and he chose to let him speak. And
Trump said that.
It's I know. This is also true that Trump says so many things that are just blatantly false. But it also shows just like that the people who thought that this candidate could or will evolve to meet the expectation of what a real candidate will look like were wrong.
Yeah.
And he is now actually in a situation where the people who brought him to this point cannot hold him up.
No.
So that's enough of that. And
we're just disappointed in you, America.
It's true.
We really are.
It's true. This one was kind of on both of us. Do you want to lead this one off, or?
I guess no. You started off because I thought of a good segue and how I can bring in what I was thinking.
Okay. So, for a while now, and I think I've even brought this up a couple times on the show without using it as a ramble or a topic. I love this device. I really do, but I'll probably never get one again. simply for the fact that it does not allow enough user agency. It does not allow you to turn off notifications about increasing your iCloud storage. If it downloads the most recent iOS update, it's going to harass you about it until you actually install it. And as we have discussed in a Ramble, I am an individual who sticks with what they've got and knows that it works and keeps it secure, and that is always my intent with my software and devices. I get, for someone who wants the newest thing, like
me,
and kind of the idea of security within that Apple's keeping you secure by keeping you up to date, but also that is contradictory to the idea that updates can break things too.
Yeah.
I'll bring up Pokemon Go and Hype Train, but Pokemon Go no longer has battery saving function because it broke with the most recent update, and it's just
really?
And it's just well, this is a great reason why people should and shouldn't run updates. And also, I've brought up the music app. The music app and iTunes are just so overwrought and lacking in simplicity, which has kind of been a slogan of Apple for a long time, which I think is somewhat hyperbolic, because when it comes to technology, they're actually, in fact, I think this is another point we've hit on in Great Scott Marcus. When it comes to technology, there isn't anything simple. There is always a learned concept to technology. Smartphones, computers, calculators, and wristwatches. There is something that is taught to help you understand how it functions. And anyway, that's about all I really had to say, that I'm annoyed by my phone.
Well, I think, what we kind of agreed on with this was the music app kind of going away from the simple function and everything that comes along with the simple function of a music playing application in general. My biggest grief, and I'm not saying I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum, but I am one that I'm running beta software on my Mac right now. I've got Mac OS Sierra beta 3. I've got iOS 10 beta 4 on
Nobody
my phone.
Cares, Mark. Nobody cares.
But I've got the music app, and it's just the simplest thing that I want to do, which is I want to arrange my albums by year within the artist group. iTunes on Mac does it automatically. Actually, I think you can change it in iTunes on Mac. You can just say, okay, I want my albums to go this way. It will not do it on the music app, and it's pissing me off.
I want
so
very clear play, pause, move forward, move back, repeat, shuffle buttons. They're tiny. It's it is just not a simple music player, and it's just
right. Well, and then they try to integrate things like the iTunes Radio and iTunes Connect, stuff that or Apple Music, which was iTunes Radio, the subscription service, trying to get all that in one app. And it's just no, that's not necessary. Stick to something simple that,
removing songs, putting them into playlists.
Yeah.
Things should be a lot more apparent than they are. And I know there's going to be someone out there who's just you pull up the bottom menu. No, I shouldn't have to access something outside of the general app to do something that should be in the app. And it's just that iTunes and music playing app on the phone needs an overhaul. And I think I get that, Apple is quality because they don't allow people as much as much user agency or independence as Android, but man, I should be able to turn off these notifications. I shouldn't have to go into my iCloud settings somewhere on my computer, which I don't want to take the time to find, to turn this off. So,
without a doubt, if I could download another music player for my phone, I would definitely try it. Absolutely, 100%.
I looked for them; they don't exist.
No, they don't exist. The good thing about the Apple Music is, when I do buy a song or an album on iTunes, it shows up. So good job, Apple, for making that work. But you're losing some of the simple things that you want to do, which kind of segues me into my next point about apps doing what they should be doing and keeping it simple is Instagram. And I know you're not on Instagram or on Snapchat.
I'm just not a social media person.
And when Instagram came out, it was photo sharing. You took a picture and you had followers and followings, blah, blah, blah. And then they decided to integrate video, which I get that, not bad. They tried to somewhat imitate what Vine did in terms of Twitter and their video sharing application. And then this week, they developed something called Stories, which is ironic because Snapchat has had Snapchat Stories for, I don't know, a couple months, if not a year. They do the exact same fucking thing. And it's just, I don't understand it. Like, why another app would just blatantly copy something that another app is so famous for right now? I mean Snapchat has...
So like a good kind of example to why some things do that.
Oh, no, I get it. It's money.
Okay. Well, it brings users back.
Exactly.
Some of those users don't even know that, like that's what Snapchat does. I wouldn't know that, but I don't give a fuck. I'm not using either of them.
Right. I mean, that's what it's kind of, it bothers me so fucking much. You're just like, whatever.
I mean, like the same thing happens with movies and games, where it's just like the Suicide Squad kind of tried to do things that other movies were doing, and
but it's less
see through
borrowed,
these
and it's also a trend what Instagram has been doing, and actually overall Facebook, who owns Instagram, which is just making changes that the users don't want. And I can say that because in the app review store and like replies to like their posts saying we introduced Stories, something they integrated not too long ago was an algorithm to show which posts it thinks you should see, just like what Facebook does. And I went to the app store, I saw the reviews, I saw the replies. 90% of them say bring back the chronological order, and Instagram's just like, fuck you, everybody. No, because what we just did brings us more money, more clicks, and we're going to stick with it. And now they have these Instagram stories, which Snapchat has made so much money off of because they've got sponsors like USA Today, IGN, Cosmopolitan, National Geographic, all have these stories, and now Instagram's doing the same fucking thing. It's just like, fuck, man.
I mean, you get
now
mad.
I'm all like riled up around it. I just think it's complete bullshit that they're not listening to the audience, and then instead they're blatantly copying someone else's thing. And they do the exact same thing too. In Snapchat, it was post something for 24 hours for your followers to see. Instagram, post something for 24 hours for your followers to see. Like, it's just absolute nonsense. I'm pissed about it.
You get mad about this stuff, but like when you mention Facebook, I actually in my head say to myself like, "Oh yeah, I forget that actually still exists."
It is.
And, like, it's not a freeing thing to be off of Facebook. It's not freeing or like uplifting or something to be off of social media and not using them. It's just to be without social media, which is just fine, especially because you occupy yourself with things that are actually more worthwhile, like news articles and, like games and TV shows, instead of just scrolling and there's nothing there, and it's just like, why did I just do that?
There's really nothing of substance in some of these social media applications. I will agree with that.
And it's just like the outside opinion is just that it's a corporation and they're going to do what makes them money, and you shouldn't be so attached to it.
I spend a lot of time on it, like when I'm at work, admittedly, when I'm not actually doing work. And it's just a shame. Like, I enjoyed Instagram. I enjoy, posting pictures. I've got, I don't know, 200 some photos on there. It's a good way to archive.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
and
like,
I put it in a folder on a different page now. It used to be like kind of up in front and center on my home screen, and now it's just like, nope, I don't want you anymore.
It's the nature of business, and I very much support what the devs for Warframe do. but I feel very comfortable with that because they are very open and communicative.
Right.
And if they were closed off and didn't really tell us what they're doing with updates like Bungie did with Destiny, then I'd probably drop them too. And I think, again, this kind of comes back to, like, consumers need to be better consumers and be more willing to drop things as opposed to just, I'm going to stick it out because it'll get better
it has
or
become a
not.
bit of an addiction. But I got excited when I did that because, you're talking about, developers and responding to consumers. It's been a while since we've been on, so a lot's happened. Probably it's like within the past 2 weeks.
I'm gonna cut us off here shortly, but
all right, there's like 2 minutes here.
Make your point.
Yeah, over the past like 2 weeks, 2 different apps that I downloaded. I was like, hey, these are really nice, and they do what I want them to do. They're nice and simple, clean interfaces, minimal, beautiful. And I emailed the developers. I was like, hey, you should implement this idea. 2 different apps. I don't remember what both of them were. And they both got back to me. They were like, hey, that's a really good suggestion. I'll do that for the next update. And it's just like, that was so satisfying to me, as a consumer and as a technology enthusiast. It was like, to get that response, then you have, the juxtaposition between these big companies like Instagram, Facebook. They're just like, nope, fuck you. We want more money instead.
I mean, big can still respond and be responsive.
They can.
It's just you receive so much more, and a lot of good ideas or, like suggestions or thank yous get buried amongst crap. And it's just like, unfortunately, sometimes things don't get responded to. But yeah, like if you try, sometimes you find something that is really worth it in there. So that's enough of that. We'll be back in the next half of the Ramble.